February 5th, we are back after the All-Star break. We got 2 NHL games on the schedule here tonight, so we'll break down both of those, do a quick little recap of what went on over the weekend, including one massive trade for someone here on the show. So we'll get into a little bit of that. But before we do, I want to remind people that today's show, as always, is sponsored by BetStamp. The easiest way to improve as a sports bettor is by using multiple sports books and always getting the best odds. And we recommend using an odds comparison tool like BetStamp to help you do so. BetStamp compares lines across every sports book for games, futures, and player props so you can save time and money by checking BetStamp before you bet. Make sure to download the app today. It is available on iOS, Android, as well as signing up on the web if you prefer to do so there. If you are looking to sign up for a new sportsbook account, you can check out the offers available at betstamp.app/edgework. That's betstamp.app/edgework so that you can check out everything that's available there does help support the show signing up through this link. So far in the season as well, by the way, recapping what went on last week to close out the show, to close out last week before we took some time off, we are now up to 218, 215, and 5 as our record on the year. That's 438 bets. We have a 6.8% ROI on the season, up 29 units for this year. So pretty good stuff from us there. About halfway through the NHL season here. Kick off the rest of the season now. But Alex, so money, what did you guys make of the All-Star weekend here?
I didn't watch much. I read about Kucherov's antics there. Of course, Bieber's fashion statements. Other than that, there was not much that I watched this on the weekend there.
Alex, did you watch any of it?
No, I think I had more similar weekend to Michael Bublé. I did see some highlights of the things that were going on during the weekend, but I certainly did not watch any of the All-Star festivities.
Fair enough.
I was more interested in Zach's videos he was sending.
Yeah, those are pretty cool.
Yeah. Walking around the All-Star festivities is pretty cool. Being here in Toronto, getting to see some of that, there was a bit of a buzz in the city. So that was kind of fun, especially with all the names and celebrities that were out, a little bit more accessible than normal as well. So I think people were pretty excited about that. Ended up at a bar on Saturday night that had Tom Wilson, Swayman, Robert Thomas, all those different guys float. Elias Lindholm, so money floating through there. So kind of just watching some of those guys filter into the bars that you end up at on a weekend regularly was a cool experience as well. But so money, I did tease it a little bit there before we get into the games today. There was a big trade that took place with the Vancouver Canucks as we were about to head into the weekend. And I don't know if you caught it as well. Jim Rutherford was on TSN radio here in Toronto, and they asked him about the idea of trades coming up to the deadline, and he said, well, there may be one coming here before the trade deadline. Like, why not before the trade deadline? Why not sooner than that? And then about a couple hours later, they pull the trigger, make the trade for Elias Lindholm. What are your thoughts on that, so money, especially being Vancouver Canucks, our local Vancouver fan, resident, insane person? What are your thoughts on acquiring Elias Lindholm?
I love Jim Rutherford. I mean, like, what a stud, right? To just tease it like that, get off the phone, and then pull off the deal. Like, he knew it was coming, right? Like,
yeah.
Even when they were in that morning, they were announcing their contract extensions, right? They're sitting there in the press conference, knowing that something is coming down the pipe. And I mean, just keep a straight face, just like, oh, I absolutely love these guys, right? Like, it's so refreshing, such a breath of fresh air to be run by people that actually know what they're doing, hockey people, right? Amazing. Like, there's two elements to the Lindholm trade, right? Like, before we get into the on ice specifics and the implications of that, just from a general sense, going into like last couple of weeks, right? There's been two clear needs that this Canucks team needed. They needed a top six forward, ideally someone who can play two positions, and they need another right-handed defenseman. Chris Tanev fits the bill, but these two needs were clearly identified. Anybody who's watching this team even casually, you can see that, and like it was impacting the minutes allocation of the other guys in that top six, and now you're forced to play Kuzmenko more minutes than you probably want to, right? So the need was identified. They go in, they pull off the trade. Yeah, they probably gave up too much, but who cares, right? Like it was a need on a team that's going for it. So now it's more impressive because I don't think that this would have happened in this way in the Jim Benning era, right? Like he probably
Right.
would have waited until the day after the deadline to figure out that he just missed the trade deadline or something, right? Like that's the that's the way that we would have gone, right? So now you look at on ice, right? You have a guy who you can slot in the top six, someone who does give you center ice minutes and can also play in the wing. So now if you're in a situation where you have a lot of options, you're in a playoff situation where things just aren't going right for you. You need that push. You can stack up the lotto line, and you're fine to do that because now you don't have to worry about the drop off on defense from specifically Kuzmenko playing on the second line, right? Like you're okay to stack the lotto line. That was the big problem right now because if you're stacking the top line, now you're relying on Kuzmenko's minutes, and that was
Yeah.
becoming a problem because he wasn't in tune with what Rick Tocchet was asking, right? It's tough. I like the kid, but he just wasn't a fit here anymore. And I believe he will take off in Calgary. I think that's going to be a better situation for him, where on a team that's not necessarily going for it, right? Well, they're not going for it, but on a team that's nowhere near what's going to be demanded of him, right? Than like what it was in Vancouver. Now with the Lindholm trade too, right? If you're playing a team that is really deep down the middle, for example, and you really want to get crazy, right? You can have you can theoretically have the Canucks go three deep at center like that, right? With and and who else would have a top three at center right now, right? With options that Lindholm gives them, right? If you have like a winger who's like going, you want to get the winger more minutes, you need a more like defensive structure in like a tight playoff game. You'll go three deep down the middle, right? So it's options. You have so many options. It's yes, he struggled this season, but just like Kuzmenko, maybe it just wasn't the right fit. And sometimes you can only look at players like the overall stats like so much, right? Like it's about the and like he's the perfect kind of two-way center who will be with people that can drive play for him, and he's responsible defensively, which fits perfectly with what the Canucks are looking for, with what Tocchet needs right now. So I kind of like the deal.
Yeah, just a little bit, kind of like the deal. Yeah, no, I think it was a good trade. I was disappointed to see that from a Toronto standpoint of watching these players filter through to Vancouver of guys that you could continue to hear like, oh, this would be a guy that might be a fit here. Maybe not necessarily connected to the team, but as even you talked about Chris Tanev out there in Vancouver kind of making his way back there, if that were to be the case, that's a guy that here in Toronto you'd be sitting going, that's the type of player you're looking for. That's the type of player you're trying to add. And if it's yet again to the Vancouver Canucks, it's going to be just another dagger to Leafs fans watching these trades go down. But it is what it is.
And like the thing is, like both Tanev and the Canucks, they both want to get back together, right? Like
Yeah.
right? They do. It's just that there's certain circumstances, especially with what the Flames are looking for, that is preventing us from getting together again.
Romeo and Juliet out there. You guys, you Western teams.
He's eventually going to come back home, whether it's going to be by trade or
Yeah.
as a free agent. Like it's going to happen. It's just I just wish it happens for the playoff run.
All right, well, let's get into tonight's games. We do have two of them ahead of us on the schedule here, so we'll give out our best bets. If you guys do have questions throughout the coverage, make sure to ask them in the chat there as well. If you haven't already, please hit that like button here on the stream. We're trying to get those numbers up, get to 5,000 subscribers. That's the next goal here. So if you're watching and you haven't already, hit that like button, subscribe here to the channel, and we'll continue to push things up. We do have a lot of stuff coming up here, including more videos, breakdowns, reactions, as well as on top of that, live watch-alongs will be starting up soon. So you're not going to want to miss any of that. You want to be subscribed here to the channel. Now let's get underway with tonight's games. The first and foremost, we're going to start here in Toronto, where the Leafs are taking on the Islanders. You got the Leafs right now minus 155, the Islanders plus 145, and a total currently sitting at 6.5. Alex, how is it that you're approaching this game tonight?
Well, there's really one way I'm looking at this, and it's going to be betting on the regulation draw. And with these two teams, it makes total sense. They were number 1 and number 2 in the league during the first half run. Leafs had 19 games go past regulation. Isles had 17 games go past regulation. You look at the last 2 meetings this season, 4-3 Islanders wins in overtime. Both games, of course, took place with the Islanders at home. So now Toronto gets to host in this spot. But I still think it could be a close game. He said had 4 guys for the Leafs that were there, taking part in the festivities. Zach, you mentioned that the town was kind of buzzing a little bit. Now got to sweep up all the confetti and things kind of settle down a little bit. And here we are back to the regular season with a Monday night home game. We know how the Leafs can do in these spots sometimes. So I think they're going to keep this one kind of close. I can see a lot of games being close early as teams kind of get back into the swing of things. You got some teams that won't even get back to playing until later on in the week. So it's something to really kind of keep an eye on, just like we saw teams having, 4 or 5 days before they went into the break. See how some of these teams respond out of the break, especially teams who had guys participating all weekend during the All-Star game.
All right, well, plus 350 on the regulation draw there. Alex, you want to go half unit, full unit on this one?
That's a full unit play for me.
All right, so full unit there. First play of the day, lock in, plus 350 regulation draw here between the Islanders and the Leafs. And so, Money, you had another look at this game as well.
Yeah, I hope that we are scoreless going into overtime. I am on the under here, plus money. We're getting plus money. Couple of things. Samsonov is going to start. So the edge I have here, well, perceived edge, is that I do believe that Samsonov is slowly starting to get better, right? And that's what I'm going to be betting on. Of course, he went in the tank. We all know about that. Zach knows about that very well. And you look at the juiced 6.5 right now. That is assuming that Samsonov is still in the tank. And I believe that he is slowly working his way out of that. So if that is true, which I believe it to be, based on where I see his numbers trending, that is where I have the edge on this total. The Leafs, we know they can put up goals, right? Like, obviously. But when I look at the Islanders, they're a team that since the coaching change, they have tightened it up defensively. They're not the same Islanders team that we were consistently betting overs on earlier in the season and really up to the coaching change, right? So this is a team that does want to tighten it up. They're trying to, and I think that for the most part, we're seeing it translate into my game scores as well, where I am seeing what should be lower scoring Islanders games. So that's where I have the edge here. We are getting the over did take money, which has created a nice plus money situation for us across the board. So I do have the under 6.5 at and we're gonna get plus money on it and good plus money. So let's go for that.
Under 6.5 plus 101 there will lock in as well, and the plus money is widely available. So no matter where you're at, you should be able to get access to that. And if you don't have a sports book that you can bet plus money at, go head on over to betstamp.app/edgework, sign up for that sportsbook using that link. It helps support us on the show here, but then it also help get you some plus money on this under 6.5, because we're going to go 0-0 into overtime and cash both sides of this here tonight to start off. Coming out of the All-Star break, but another game here that we'll get to tonight as well. The New York Rangers hosting the Colorado Avalanche tonight. The Rangers minus 107, the Avs minus 103 right now. Shop around and you can find some different prices, but those are best in market right now, and a total of 6.5. Alex, what are your thoughts on this game? Side, total, just overall predictions preview of this one?
Yeah, this should be a fun game. These are two teams that obviously are going to come into the break, and they're teams that I'm looking to kind of buy on heading into the break. I think we're going to see a lot of good momentum from these clubs, especially Colorado being on the road to start. I think it's a 4 or 5 game road trip that they're starting on right now. So, that helps some of these teams kind of get right back into the business mindset of things. We talk about that sometimes being away from home can be a blessing for certain clubs. And I think for Colorado, maybe starting on the road, getting things a little bit more in focus, that could be a good spot for them. The Rangers, on the other hand, like I said, you got to take care of business at home, especially against top-tier teams, and I think you have to do that by establishing the pace and tempo early. So I like the first period puck line with the New York Rangers. You can get that. I saw that around plus 175 at Caesars. So laying that half a goal with the Rangers in the first period, I think they can come out and in that first 20 minutes with the lead. So that's the spot I'm looking at there. Plus minus a half, rather, with the Rangers in the first period. That's a half unit play for me, by the way.
Okay, half unit plus 190 on the Rangers. First period puck line, we'll lock that in. Again, we will recap all the picks at the very end, so don't worry about that. And as well, I do see a question there from Poe Degen Stoner saying, did I miss the Hot Chip Challenge? No, that's coming February 15th. First live watch along here on this channel. We will be doing that then, so don't worry. You did not miss anything. But it's a good reminder, if you're not subscribed and you haven't turned on notifications yet, do so that you don't miss anything on this channel. But so money. Continuing on here, this Rangers Avs game. What are your thoughts on it? What are your thoughts on where the line's currently sitting at?
Sorry, guys, 1 second. Yeah, so Jonathan Quick is the first goalie off the ice here. He's gonna get the start, which is a little surprising. So I do need to update the numbers here. Okay, so where I had this game with Shesterkin, it's going to be drastically different now. So, and we should see Colorado money coming into the market here momentarily as this news filters in. So, yeah, so we're live, and Jonathan Quick is going to be starting in goal. So we need to make adjustments on the fly here. Where I see this game, I had notes on Igor Shesterkin. I agree with Alex. I do want to bet both on I do want to bet on both of these teams. The problem is there's Igor Shesterkin, who I was anticipating at this point in the season would be able to turn it around. We're just not seeing that. Even going into the All-Star break, a few games before that, his game scores continue to be poor, and he still continues to be trending poorly as well. So that has been a concern. I was going to lay off this game, but when you compare Shesterkin and Jonathan Quick this year, Quick has been better, right? So, but Shesterkin still demands the market respect, right? So I'm waiting right now at this point to see where this line is going, because it is going to create value on the Rangers for me. It's just a matter of it's not the right time to enter the market, right? So once I don't know why it hasn't moved yet, but assuming that Colorado does start taking some money here, I would like to be on the Rangers. I believe that we should be able to get plus money on them. Again, we're live, and I don't know why it's not happening yet. But if we do get plus money on the Rangers, that is where I'm going to want to be. So I'm trying to extend this as long as I can, right? Maybe I'll start
Some
talking
things move quicker than others. You never know.
maybe I'll start talking very, very slowly here, because I'm waiting for some money to come in. But I mean, I'll be on the Rangers if I can get plus money on it.
Well, you know what? While we do this, while we try to see if there's any money that comes in, I have one other thing to ask you guys. Not necessarily about the games tonight, but there was another announcement here over the past weekend coming from the NHL, the NHLPA, and that is the return of international hockey. So first and foremost, we're going to get the Four Nations Cup coming up in 2025. That's going to involve Canada, US, Sweden, and Finland, and then the return to the Olympics in 2026. I think that was pretty exciting to see. First and foremost, though, I want to hear your thoughts thoughts on the Four Nations Cup and the return of that, because I know it was kind of in a different format when they had done it before, but so many, just thinking about like the idea of having Sweden, Finland, Canada, and the US, in a sense, best on best, obviously excluding some of the countries, but how exciting is it to see that return? Oh, mute so money. Or no mic or something. Something's gone wrong. Too excited waiting for
Can you hear me now?
too excited waiting for the money. There you go.
Yeah, before I give my thoughts, I'm actually interested in what Alex thinks about these countries playing each other. Alex, why don't you take it here?
Yeah, this will probably give me some time to buy a little bit here. I have a different opinion about international hockey. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I understand the want for players to want to be in the Olympics right now. This is something that obviously the Olympics spans the entire world, and obviously we saw players throughout our growing up, at least for me in the 90s, and a lot of these players now they're younger players, so they saw guys who were in the league in the late 90s and 2000s playing in the Olympics, and for those who were overseas, that was their real taste of seeing some of those celebrities kind of a bit closer up. And so they want to be able to represent their country. They play for their country every time they're, on the ice, of course. And that's why you have these global games and the different setups. But they want to be able to win gold and silver and bronze for their nations, respectively. And I understand that. But when you throw in something now like this Four Nations thing, which I think it's an interesting detour from the regular All-Star events. But at the same time, we're talking about now you're adding 2 or 3 extra games for these certain players in the middle of a season. Do you really want them playing balls out? If you're a team like the Leafs and you got 5 guys playing in this tournament amongst these 4 countries, and you're top of the league right now, you're on a run like Boston was last year. Do you really want them playing in an international competition? All of a sudden, Matthews gets hurt or Nylander gets hurt, and you miss them. And now a team that might have won a Stanley Cup or at least gotten to a conference final, all of a sudden, now they're a team that looks like they might just exit in the first or second round. So I'm always cautious. As a Hawks fan who watched half of the team go to the Olympics in 2010, I was always cautious of let's keep everybody healthy and everybody safe. And I get that, guys don't want to dog it when they're going over there or playing in a competition like this. Like you mentioned with the whole Nikita Kucherov thing in the All-Star game. You want guys to play with some incentive. But at the same time, it's like at what cost or risk it is to the club that they're on. So, I know people love it. The fans love it. I'm on the outside of this, and I'm fine with that. But, if everybody can just kind of stay healthy, I know they talked about that even in the press conference with Bettman, asking about some of the things with, who would be covering the insurance, that the IIHF would cover any insurance fees and different things of that nature. So they seem to have all that squared away. Just, hope everyone has fun and stays safe with some of these tournaments. That's all.
Yeah, no, the injury aspect I definitely do agree with, and the timing of the tournament is interesting as well. But I think like the buzz that was generated by the World Baseball Classic, I think it's almost like hard to say that it's not good for necessarily sport. Now, in that case, I think the timing of it is a little bit better because it leads into it. Plus, on top of that, you're not looking at a full contact sport that's being taken place where you have to go balls to the wall physically to kind of try to win whatever is going to happen. If you can throw the Four Nations Cup at the beginning of the season, like how I think that they did
World Cup of Hockey.
Yeah, World Cup of Hockey. Thank you. Yeah. That would be a better way to go about it. The mid-season stuff I think is pretty tough sell. I think that's part of the problem with the Olympics in years past, but I don't know. I am happy to see return, but that is very, very valid point. The injuries, especially when you have these like contending teams. Like if you're on a team where you're not going to make the playoffs, it, going to the Olympics is probably not a big deal. You're probably more excited because you're going to play at a higher level than you've been playing for the entire season. But outside of that, I can understand the argument against it for sure there.
Yeah, the reason I actually wanted Alex to take it first is because I know how he feels about this, and I just wanted to tee it up for a Alex B. Smith rant here.
Yeah,
I like it. I think it's interesting that there's such a it's not surprising about there being a dichotomy between the fans whose teams are kind of competitive and fans whose teams are not, and then you have the injury concerns, right? Like for example, the Canucks, half their team is going to be going, right, like across across the countries, right? So it's it is a concern from a fan perspective. Similar to the World Juniors, I do have a lot of nostalgia there as well, right? Like growing up watching a lot of this stuff, and of course, it does hit closer to home with the 2010 Olympics here, which was just outstanding, right? So, and that's a lifelong memory that I have, which was firsthand, and that's always going to stay with me. So I do have that. I do have that nostalgia. So there's that part of it. But what's more important to me is that this is what the players want, right? Like they're not being forced to go. This is what they've been pushing for. This is what they've been trying to negotiate for. So as long as the players want it, I'm okay with it. Even if there's going to be injury concerns, like, I mean, you can't control that. That could happen anytime, right? So it's not something that I'm going to be focused on as long as this is what the players want. And as long as they want it, then I'll be okay with it.
Yeah, that's fair. And it does seem like they wanted. You kept hearing them in the interviews and stuff all weekend after the fact that it was announced, talking about like getting back to best on best hockey is something that they've been looking for, and you get the world championships and stuff that they get to go over to at the end of the season. But again, it's NHL players going over there and wearing jerseys for Canada, Sweden, Finland, whatever. But it's not best on best. It's not getting to see Connor McDavid, Bedard, McKinnon, Crosby, just from even a Canadian perspective, wear the same jersey on the same team. Like that's something that's going to be pretty cool as well from both standpoints, whether you're in Canada or the US, watching these teams be put together. It's going to be exciting to see those players go toe to toe also alongside some of the best players in the world.
And when we look back at NHL history too, we talk about, of course, we said the Olympics, but think about like the Canada Cups and the different things throughout the 70s and 80s. Those are some memorable moments for a lot of those legendary players as well. So there will be a gap when we start talking about guys going to the Hall of Fame now, guys who they don't have the Olympic gold or the international titles that we've seen from a lot of other players over the years, and they would want that on their resume. So I've softened my stance in the sense of knowing that this is something really that the players want. This isn't something that the league's trying to just force down our throats necessarily, that this is something that the players have really kind of called upon in the last few years. And so, we got to give the players what they want. They're the ones giving us all of the action and entertainment. So we have to give some compromise in that aspect.
Also, Jeremy saying their big middle finger to Russia not having them. I believe that that's not a. I believe that was a exterior non-hockey related decision.
Some logistics. Some logistics there that might keep them out of that tournament or a couple of tournaments.
Yeah.
We can make it a geopolitical show too, right? Like, should we go there?
I don't know.
I'm not touching that. I'm not touching any of that. I acknowledge what's going on, acknowledge why, and move on. Keep it moving. So, Money, did you? Did we get enough time here? I was trying to refresh in the background. Did we get enough time? Has anything happened here? Okay, not going to come into range. All right, well, we'll recap our picks for today then. Reminder, we will be back every day, Monday through Friday, through the remainder of the week, moving forward all the way through to the end of the season. So make sure to subscribe here to the channel. Follow us on Twitter at EdgeworkHQ for any show updates or anything like that. But looking at today's picks and what we've got, lined up here. 3 bets for tonight. First, we're going to look at the Islanders-Leafs game. We're going to take the under 6.5 plus 101 full unit there. The Islanders-Leafs regulation time draw plus 350. Again, shop around. We're tracking these at verified prices that you can find via BetStamp. There are obviously some better ones out there, but make sure to check around and use betstamp.app/edgework to sign up and bet at those places. But we're taking regulation time draw plus 350 full unit there as well. Final play of the night, we're going to take the Rangers first period spread minus 0.5 plus 190 and that is for a half unit there. That is all of our bets for tonight. We do appreciate everyone who tuned in here. Hopefully everyone had a safe and fun All-Star weekend, enjoyed the time off a little bit, but it's going to be good to get back into it and see the pace and the intensity pick up here as we head into trade deadline, and then at post-trade deadline as we gear up for the playoffs. You'll see it not only on the ice, but you'll see it here on the show too, looking to continue on what we've done through the first half of the season. 438 bets and a 6.8% ROI, up 29 units on the year so far. Thanks to everyone who tuned in here today. Alex, so money, thank you guys for taking the time to do this. As always, greatly appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you throughout the remainder of the week. For everyone else, we'll see you back here tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. Enjoy the games tonight. Good luck on your bets.